7 is called Sweet Maria, and it is the love story of Bob and his wife, and it is a beautiful story. And so the little heading says, I used to think Jesus motivated us with ultimatums, but now I know he pursues us in love.
Awesome.
So what happens is Bob in college sees this woman, Maria, and right away he says, that's Mrs. Goff, like, that's my wife. I'm going to marry her. And he comes on a little strong, maybe you would think. After knowing her for, like a week and a half, he decides to create a Valentine's Day card for her, and it's 8 feet tall and 4 feet wide. And he gets it there by a truck. He gets it to her place of work by using a truck.
This is just
loads it in, gets in the elevator, just thinking it's the best idea. And when he can't hardly get the card out of the elevator is when he's realizing maybe this wasn't a great idea. And then Maria comes up and sees him and has this horrified look, and he's like, okay, not a good idea at all. So it kind of, sets him back a bit on this whole pursuit of Maria, because he's convinced he's going to marry her. And he just begins to build this relationship with her. And he doesn't ever really go very in depth as to like how their friendship grows much, but he does talk about, even after that point, he didn't stop pursuing her. He made sandwiches and put them on her windshield every morning. I can only imagine they must not live.
Just like smash.
Seriously.
Put notes in the sandwiches.
Notes in the sandwiches. I just picture the biting the sandwich, pulling the paper out. They must not live in the Midwest, otherwise that would be one soggy sandwich for like half the year. So then he does that, and then they end up living in houses across the street from each other. And he kind of makes it his goal that once he does something,
passes the bar,
then that's when he's going to propose. And even his initial proposal plan kind of goes downhill. It starts to rain, and it ruins his plan of taking her on this ship or this boat. So he takes her somewhere else, and he ends up proposing there. And she says yes. And that's the chapter. But then he just, he connects it to God's pursuit of us in a really cool way.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm assuming all the single women love this chapter.
So
let's just stick in the natural for a moment and explain to the dudes out there why you like this chapter so much. Because let me just say, dudes left to their own devices make an 8-foot tall cardboard card and put peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on windshields. Tell them why it actually worked.
Oh, because it's outrageous, but it's doing something, and it shows just like, I want to be with you.
Yeah.
And just this sureness. Man, it's so cool when guys are, when they're like firm about something. They're not wavering, and they know, sure of themselves, sure of what they want, but I don't know, I'm trying to think of the right word, and I'm not quite arriving at it, but.
I think it's great because it's extravagant. It's not like, here's a box of chocolates and some roses. Like, I mean, that's fine too, but it's like, he's like, he probably wasn't he probably didn't have a lot of money. That's why it was sandwiches on her windshield. But, I mean, the thing is like, that is just a gesture of what's going on in his heart. And it's just, for a woman, it's just great to see that and to feel that pursuit, because no girl is going to want to go out with a guy who she doesn't feel like he even really wants to. Like, just even that extra, like, making a fool of himself with this giant card, it makes you feel special. It makes you feel like no one has ever done this for anybody that I've ever seen before. I must be special, and every girl wants to feel special. They want to feel like they're being pursued, like they're being won over. It's not just like, hey, you want to go with me? It's like, why don't you work at it a little bit more? I want to feel like you won me over and valued. Yeah.
And kind of like the silly confidence is attractive because it's like it's not caring actually what people think, because it's like he knew what he wanted, and so then it plays a part, and the girls do want that. Like, they want somebody who is confident and who he's able to look silly. Like, even if he doesn't even think he looks funny, that's the thing. Like, he doesn't even know. He's got this big card. He thinks it's totally normal because that's what he put. Like, he's like, this is gonna work for sure. Like, she's gonna like this. The bigger, the better. You know?
Giant cardboard.
Yeah, and also I think the other thing that's really appealing about it is that it's kind of unrequited love at first. Like, she's completely not interested, and he just keeps coming. He keeps coming. So then it makes you kind of feel safer because it's not dependent on anything she's done. She's kind of like, dude, you could just stay away for all I care at the moment.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm not staying away because I think you're awesome, and I'm gonna keep coming at you.
Yeah. When I read this chapter, I love it so much because I am a hopeless romantic for sure. I just think, I just love these things. I just want to be pursued. And one time when I had said that phrase, I'm like, oh, I'm such a hopeless romantic. God kind of caught me. He's like, no, I've actually made you to be a hopeful romantic. And in that, he was just showing me that I actually have my hope in something that's really real. To a lot of girls, I mean, this can just feel like this is just so far away from anything I could ever have, like, I'm not desirable, I'm not this, I'm not that. But the thing is like, having been in a few relationships in the natural, it's nothing compared to what my relationship with God has been since I've been walking with the Lord, because there's nothing that can satisfy that craving for love and acceptance like the love of God. I mean, it just, and you've heard it and you know it, but the thing is once you've experienced, then you know it, It's like, it's one of those things that I come back to oftentimes because I know I don't fully know it. I know that there's still parts of me that struggle with it, and how can this actually be fully fulfilling to me in this way? Shouldn't I be married? Shouldn't I be dating somebody in order to feel this? And the truth is that God is just showing me more and more every day. No, like, I'm giving you all these things now, and I'm pursuing you more than anybody could ever pursue you, ever. And, this was something that became more clear to me when I was actually in a relationship, and the guy, he was pursuing me in a way, and I had been in previous relationships, and this was a while ago, and before I was really walking steadily with God, this was happening, but he was walking steadily with God, and the funny thing is he knew the pursuit of God. He knew the way that God had pursued him in this love, and so he was actually, this boy was actually pursuing me with that love, and I was like, whoa. And then right away God was like, that's how I pursue you, Shelly. That's actually how I love you. That's how I love you. He's doing this and he's doing this, but that's actually, I do that more to you. And it was just like crazy because instead of me, falling head over heels in love with this boy, I was first falling head over heels in love with Jesus because I realized that was actually what Jesus was doing. And it meant so much more because, I don't know, it just did. And it really changed a lot in my heart. And
right. I loved what you were sharing with me the other day too, about how there's a lot of people around you in your life now that are starting to be in relationships or get engaged, and in being a wife and a mother is a desire of your heart too, but you're so okay now, and you're like surprised by how okay you are right now because of where God's brought you, right? With and being totally at peace and totally happy and full of joy. Well, some of your great friends are getting married because you know that relationship with Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is, that we were just talking about that yesterday because it is just shocking to me. I've always been one of those girls. I'm just like, I just want a boyfriend. I just want to get married. I want all these things. I want to feel loved. And as, I'm at the age where I could be getting married and this could be a really real thing for me, I don't find myself pining after it like I had been when I was even a bit younger. And even, a few years back when people would be in relationships and I wasn't, I'd feel like jealousy, like, oh, it's not fair. When is it my turn? But it's like God has done so much in my heart because he's shown me his pursuit of me that I'm just like, I don't crave that from a person because I have everything in God, you know?
Yeah.
And it's been honestly just changed so much of the way I interact with, other women because I'm not holding that you know, that secret jealousy of their life, and it changes the way I interact with men, because I'm not like, will you like me, will you love me, are you the one? It's like, I just can be secure in knowing that I'm pursued by God, and that I can know a fullness of things right now, and it's not, that fullness will not come in a relationship.
Yes, right. I have this quote that I like, and you know, in the end, it goes back to, you know, grace and our desire for unconditional love, which is, to me, what's cool about this chapter is he pursues her, you know, the way God pursues us, without anything coming back at him, and he just keeps on coming until he wins us over, you know. There's this quote from this book on grace that I read. What I felt most was a glob of unworthiness that I could not tie down to any concrete sins I was guilty of. What I needed more than pardon was a sense that God accepted me, owned me, held me, affirmed me, and would never let go of me, even if he was not too much impressed with what he had on his hands.
Wow.
And I think ultimately that's kind of how we all feel, you know? Sometimes we can push love away because, I don't know, we're scared, or we don't feel like we deserve it, you know, even though we want it.
Yeah.
And what you really want is, even when you push it away, for it to keep coming back at you.
Yeah.
Because it's what you
It's
want,
like
even when you
testing
feel like you don't deserve it, you know?
And it is just like, even the way God loves, like he's been showing me lately just how it is more than I would ask for even. So often, like he goes to an extreme, you know, like God, what I think, oh yeah, God, that's loving, like if it looked like this, like that would be love, but God's been showing me lately it's actually more extreme than what I can see.
Right.
You know, and that's been like, oh my gosh, like, wow, God, you know, like even on an airplane yesterday, he kept giving me things for free all the time. And these people next to me were like, how are you, like, how is that happening to you? I'm like, it's the favor of the Lord. Like, I got, like, my bags were free. For some reason, I didn't have to pay for them. I got, like, some special seat for free, and the rest of the people around me paid for them. And then I got a Sprite for free because this man next to me just, like, got an alcoholic drink and used a little bit of Sprite. And he's like, oh, you asked for a Sprite? I was like, yeah. He's like, you want mine? I was like, yeah. And so, like, this lady next to me, she's like, seriously? Like, what's happening with you? I'm like, it's the favor of the Lord. Like, I'm like, God just loves me. That's what I kept telling her. And it actually opened a door in her life that, like, God gave me a word for her. And she was able to receive it because she had actually seen, like, God actually does love, you know, like, in it. I was told her, like, there's something in your life that happened that turned you off to the things of God. And she was just, like, nodding her head, and, like, God gave me a picture with it. And, like, I saw, like, this train going through a tunnel, and, like, God put his hand through the tunnel, like, stopped the train, and, like, was redirecting it. And she's like, that's crazy. She's like, I just lost my job today.
Whoa.
And I was like,
Awesome.
yeah, so that was cool. Just, like, even in God showing me his love, because, like, that whole day he was just wrecking me. You know, like, I was getting blown away by what he was doing in my life, and then that he would actually use it then in somebody else's life was wrecking me more.
Right.
You know, because I'm like, oh God, you actually let me then participate in love, you know, like even teaching me then how to love from you loving me. So that was cool.
You know, it reminds me of the end of this chapter when he talks about how we can see God's love if we pay attention, you know, in creation. And I don't know if it was some mountain or a lake or something, I don't really remember what it was. But it reminded me of that scripture that says God causes it to rain on the just and the unjust alike. And I was thinking of how, you know, if it's somebody you don't like, if you have the power to, like, make it not rain on them, you know, they're going to have a drought, and they're going to, you know, just die of dehydration because they suck. But these ones are my kids, so I'm going to cause it to rain on them. You know how God is just not even that way, that he's always, you know, wake up to the sunrise. And I'm like, it's just, within 5 minutes, it's another beautiful painting. Like, it goes from, like, one this morning, it's like red, it's like little dots of red. And then suddenly the whole sky had, like, a line of red. I'm like, every moment is like a beautiful painting, you know, from, like, a genius artist who's always expressing his love to all of us.
Yeah.
And then for his children, there's a special measure of his favor, but he's got it out there for everybody, you know?
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. We just don't pay attention most of the time, you know?
That's so true.
There's on page 49, as he's, after Maria accepted him, he said, fortunately Maria understood that for some of us, most of us, the language of love is laced with whimsy. It sometimes borders on irrational. And both those words caught me, whimsy and irrational. And just the creation thing was reminding me again of the whimsy in love. Like, he doesn't have to put all this beauty around us that communicates so much of his love and his desire for us to know him. But the irrational part is something I've really enjoyed learning about God. And when you read the scriptures, it's like, yeah, really, the way you do stuff is completely irrational to us. It's just so out there. We would never, it would never work according to us. But anyway, but I just thought, you know, how irrational God's love is that he pursues us even when we've said no to him 1,000 times, even when we've pushed him away. I mean, I was in my car after being like at a church type meeting, and at the meeting I'd been touched with the love of God. But as I was driving home, I just started to ask God, why do you love me? Oh, it's your quote that made me think of that. Like,
Okay.
why? You know, why? But why do you love me? Why do you? And I never really arrived at an answer, and, you know, it gave me an answer, but he just filled me with this love more as I was asking, and I was just weeping and weeping and weeping as I drove, and I'm like, I had to pull over, I think, why do you love me? But he just kept filling me up. I'm like, it's just so irrational. I didn't do anything. I'm not special. I mess up all the time. Why do you love me? And it just kept pouring down. You know, just
amazing.
like, how irrational, but I love it. You can keep being irrational, God. You can keep loving me. It's okay.
No, that's enough.
Awesome. Well, I think that summarizes this chapter pretty decently.
I think so.